it wasn't just an idea that yoga's good for recovery. I saw it with my own eyes. So people started coming, and in that room, in that little church space, I started to see, I felt it. It was palpable, it was visceral, like people were healing. They were letting go of grief. They were letting go of depression. We would have a circle. We would sit after our class and we would share. And it was just so powerful because we would move together, we would breathe together, and then we would share our experience together. And I did that for a few years. And that's when I was able to move into teaching in treatment centers, and that's what I've been doing for the last 12 years.
Stories are powerful.
Welcome to the Rise, Recover, Live podcast, brought to you by The Phoenix. This is a space where people impacted by substance use can come to share their story of strength and resilience, get open and honest, and inspire hope and build community through shared experience.
We'll be talking to people in our community on their own recovery journey and shine a light on the topic of recovery in all its forms. Maybe you'll hear some of your story in theirs.
Let's show the world that together we rise, recover, and live.
Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Rise, Recover, Live podcast. I am your sole host today, Liz McKean. I use she, her pronouns. We are missing Bryce the third and miss him deeply, as always, when we're solo, but could not be more excited today to be speaking with our guest, Brian Hyman, who is a yoga teacher and who is an author and is just I looked at his website briefly, and on all the cool sites, all the things that I feel like so many of us strive to do who are in the space of recovery and wellness and yoga and meditation. And I can't wait to hear all about it. So Brian is also incredibly patient as we have had a day of technology adventures. So Brian, welcome. Thank you for being here. And how are you?
I'm good. Thanks for having me. And hopefully we'll stay connected and stay online. Yeah, we've been going through a couple of different openings and intros to this so far. And so hopefully everyone will be able to hear us and see us, and we'll share our message of hope and healing and transformation and recovery.
I mean, even if we ended right there, that was beautiful. So I have a lot of faith that we've got it now, that we're going to make it happen. So, well, Brian, Bryce has been kind of chatting with you as we planned this episode. So aside from just doing a little bit of reading on your website and some of the information you provided before hopping on, I'm really excited to get to know you. So I know that recovery and yoga are part of your story, and those are, enormous parts of my story. So if you don't mind, to get started, just, what brought you to this part of your life where yoga and recovery are things that are front and center?
I got sober in 2009, so I've been sober for 14 years now. And yoga was a big part of my personal journey in early sobriety. It really helped me find a way to quiet my mind and strengthen my body and connect to what I seemed to find as a spiritual connection. It was the one place, my yoga mat, where I really started to find that recovery was more about just putting down a bottle or whatever the substance is. It was a way of being, a way of living, and my yoga practice gave me one more way to do that, and it really showed me an amazing way to do that. So I got sober, and then I started to teach yoga about 9 months into my sobriety, and the rest is sort of history. I just kept following the next right thing, which meant that I would get ideas or things would come to me in meditation, or people would make suggestions. And it was things like teaching yoga to other people in recovery, because it was so important to my personal journey. And I felt that I could bring it to people who either didn't know about it or couldn't get to it or couldn't afford it. And I can try to make it relatable and contemporary and so that other people can also find these things, because I didn't know much about yoga except that it was a class at the gym. I didn't know it was a useful tool, that it was something that was so transformative, and it really helped me process a lot of feelings and emotions and trauma and the things that I was able to do through therapy and through the 12 steps, but this took it to a whole nother level. So I started working in treatment and started recording different courses and writing articles for websites and magazines, and really just starting to put that out there as this offering that yoga is a really useful tool for recovery. So here it is. Here's some ways you can do it. I've been doing it for quite a while now. Yeah, I just wrote a book and that came out. So yeah, I'm really grateful. It's just
Yeah.
neat because it was never my plan. It just all unfolded very naturally, very organically. And I couldn't be more pleased and more grateful that my purpose sort of found me in this way, that this is, whether I like it or not, this is what I'm doing. And it's what it looks like I'll be doing for quite a while. And it suits me just fine.
It's incredible. Did you have any kind of yoga or other kind of mindfulness practice prior to recovery, or did you find it once recovery was part of your life already?
The mindfulness, meditation, yoga piece to my personal recovery, it actually came in recovery. So when I got sober, I didn't know anything about
Hmm.
mindfulness. I wasn't meditating. I may have done yoga before I got sober, but it was nothing more than stretching at that time.
Yeah.
It was the piece that was my sobriety really opened the door to all these new possibilities.
Mm.
It, Aside from yoga, so many more things, but I don't think I would have been able to mentally or emotionally take in the benefits, or physically or spiritually, the benefits of yoga had I not gotten sober first. And so, yeah, it came after I got sober. So getting sober, putting down the substance, putting down the bottle, definitely has to come first before we can really, I think, really take in these other things. It's hard to be mindful if we're still harming ourselves. It's hard to
Mhm.
meditate if you're still unable to quiet your mind. So,
Yeah.
yeah, for me, it was getting sober first.
Yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense. For me, it's so interesting to hear, and I have all these questions that are slightly selfish, and that I've been wanting to ask someone who has yoga and recovery as part of their story. So this is just very serendipitous that we're having this convo. But as just this little bit of background, I started doing yoga. I had, I think, a pretty typical trajectory where there was a good 10 years of like starts and stops of sobriety. I knew I needed to get sober far before I actually did, and it stuck. And within that time, the pockets of sobriety that I would have that would get longer and longer over the years, I would do yoga. And those were the only times, like on the mat, that I wanted to be sober. That like I was like, oh, there's a way to feel this kind of peace and have that quietness on the inside, that doesn't, come from a bottle. That had been my only solution, to anxiety and to just the pain that I was feeling. And so it was just these little peaks of light. And so similar to you, when I got sober, it was in the first year of sobriety that I did my yoga teacher training. And it was just, all of a sudden it was like those little pieces of light were just like rays of sunshine. I was like, this is amazing. Life is beautiful and perfect and wonderful, and can't wait to do it more and to share it. And I think, that the thing that brought me so much joy when I started to teach was that it never felt like, I think, coming to it from that like recovery, pre-recovery and during recovery, having it be such a big part of the story, was that I always felt a little bit like, just, I'm so grateful to this thing, to this practice. And I didn't ever think that I could be here. The fact that I have this life I have now, and I can't wait to show other people that it's possible. And having taught in a treatment center as well, which I know that you do, it always just is like, would blow my mind to have someone realize that themselves. Someone who thought that like, I could never sit still. I could never just take deep breaths. This is never going to work for me. I can't touch my toes, therefore I can't do this. And I think for folks who have been through hard things, we're the ones who can say, no, you can, because I've been where you are, and yeah. So I mean, I guess I don't have a great question except for just to hear maybe a little bit about that experience. Like, what has it been like, to share with folks that are in often the hardest part of their life, that they're going through, and sharing that, and how much your own experience kind of amplifies your ability to really give people that gift of those little rays of light.
Well, first, thank you for sharing a little bit about your background. It's helpful to know, and I think it's helpful for people to see, like, we're all doing our own little part here.
Mm-hmm.
It's neat because there's so many of us in the world who are in recovery, and we're chipping in. It's a collective thing. I didn't get sober by myself. And so it's everyone. It's a teacher over here. It's a therapist over there. It's a book over here. It's a podcast over there. So we never know what little thing we're going to share.
Mm-hmm.
It might be the thing that someone else needs to hear.
Yeah.
So even what you just shared, I think somebody probably needed to hear that. So thank you for sharing that. the magic happened for me. I was 9 months sober and I did my first yoga teacher training. And it was shortly thereafter I wanted to teach in treatment because I really wanted to bring the benefits of yoga because they were so, I was feeling it. I knew it in my body, in my mind, in my heart, my spirit, on my mat. I wanted to if I could, give that to other people. And I reached out to all these different treatment centers and sober living houses, and I couldn't find a place that wanted me to teach. And I thought, well, this stinks.
Well, shoot, I want it and I want it now.
I want to do this and nobody wants me to do it. But I want to help people and nobody seems to want me to help their people. And so in true typical fashion, like a rebel, like a renegade, I said, you know what? I'm going to do it anyway. So I had a friend who was teaching yoga at a yoga studio, and he had one class once a week there, sort of off the schedule, off the grid. It was just for people in recovery. And I thought, I'm going to do something like that. And so I took that as the model. I created my own class. I found a local space where I lived in a church. And once a week, I let people know that we're doing this class for free for the community. Anyone in recovery can come. And that's where I started to see that it wasn't just an idea that yoga is good for recovery. I saw it with my own eyes. So people started coming. And in that room, in that little church space, I started to see, I felt it. It was palpable, it was visceral, like people were healing. They were letting go of grief. They were letting go of depression. We would have a circle. We would sit after our class and we would share. And it was just so powerful because we would move together, we would breathe together, and then we would share our experience together. And I did that for a few years. And that's when I was able to move into teaching in treatment centers. And that's what I've been doing for the last 12 years at the same treatment center in Malibu here out in California. But that's when I saw it was neat because we had this little kind of time capsule, this little safe space where I got to figure out as a teacher what works for people in recovery. What types of philosophy, what types of poses, sequences, music, lighting, what really works here. And then when it was time to kind of take the show on the road and move it to a place where I was in the big leagues, I guess, I'm working with people. So what you asked was, I went from doing that to in a treatment center, you're working with people who are detoxing. They are in very early recovery, 1 day, 2 days, 3 days. There are people there who have been for a couple of weeks before the end of their stay. Usually most people stay about 30 days. And so I'll see people in all these different stages, and yet yoga never fails to help. There's always something someone can do, because some people will say, well, I don't feel good. I feel nauseous. I can't touch my toes. I'm not flexible. I just got here. I don't do yoga. And there are no requirements for yoga. If you're a human being, if you're alive, if you're breathing, you qualify. You can do something. And so what I'll share is just come sit with us then. Yeah. Just lay down. I said there's a pose, it's called Shavasana. It's a resting pose. You just lay there. If you want to just sit, there's a chair right there. Just be with us. Just be here. Yoga means union. So come with us. Be part of our group here. And it's just incredible. And the time has really flown. I can't believe I've been doing this for a dozen years now. And it's definitely fortified my personal recovery, which you could probably talk about as well. As, in recovery, we get to help other people. We get to be of service. We get to be a living example. And when you see other people take a deep breath and you see their shoulders relax and you see their jaw soften, and they even tell you, wow, I had racing thoughts before this class, and now my mind is so quiet. Yeah. It's such a blessing. And it's still, I think I said the magic thing happened. It's still magical to me. It's one of those things. When I was a kid, you heard stuff like, if you do what you love, you'll never work a day in your life. Yeah. And that's what I feel like I get to do today. Is I don't feel like I'm punching a clock or clocking in or going to work. It's not work for me. I get to share. I get to do this. So it's incredible.
Oh, I love that. Yes to all those things, to all those feelings and that just like magic that you get to see and that you get to feel like you're part of and just feel like so humbled by. One of my favorite things when I would teach at the treatment center would be when I would start to hear people who are coming, you often get people for, 30, 45 days or something depending on what their stay was. When I would hear that someone who'd been coming to my class week after week say to a new person, like, it's okay. Even if you come and just like lay down and take deep breaths, it's still yoga. I'd be like, like my work here is done. It would just be so like, oh, that will stay with that person. And, hopefully no matter where they go to, whatever their practice looks like, even, years from now or whatever, if that is still there, that they just know that no matter what, like you have the ability to find that within yourself, to do yoga and to just find that stillness. There's no expectation of toe touching. That's just really beautiful when people start to share that with each other, because people share that with us, and yeah, it makes me really happy to hear that from you.
That's one thing I really try to work on, because it's not a yoga studio. It's a treatment center.
Yeah.
So people aren't going there to do yoga.
Right.
They're going there to save their lives. They're going there to detox,
Mm-hmm.
to find treatment.
Mm-hmm.
They want to recover from substance abuse and alcoholism and other things. Yoga is just one of the classes or groups that's there. So most people aren't there for yoga. And so one thing I try to share at the very beginning is make it your own. Find your own way to do it. Personalize your practice, individualize the poses, modify the poses so that when you leave here, you can take this with you and you won't need a teacher. You won't have to do it my way. Don't do it like the person next to you, because if you don't find a way to do it your own way, you're not going to want to do it. You won't enjoy it.
Yeah.
And so from the very beginning, that's what I've been teaching is, find your own way to do it. Don't do it like me.
Yeah.
And you don't have to impress anybody. This is not a competition or a group sport. There's no trophy at the end. Just find your own way.
Yeah.
And like you shared, that's what really touches me when someone says, hey, guess what? You weren't here yesterday, so I did yoga by myself in my room for 10 minutes. I just did some of the stuff I remembered, and it felt really good. And just like you said, like, it just touches my heart. And I think if that's what I was able to give someone, they can take that with them for the rest of their lives, and they won't need me or any other teachers. Like, that's what we're supposed to do. It's the old idea is like, give a man a fish, you feed him for a day. Teach him how to fish, he'll feed himself for a lifetime. And so if you can teach someone, here's what you need to do. Find your own way to do this. And then, I love when I hear things like that. Hey, we did yoga over the weekend when you weren't here. We just remembered some stuff you said, and we just did that.
Incredible.
It's beautiful.
Well, and what a gift. I mean, off the mat too, for you to say to them, to someone who is in early recovery, whatever it looks like for you today is okay. Like, you as you are right now is just right, is all we need. We're just so glad you're here just as you are. Like, I'm just thinking of all the people in the entire world, in different stages of life and often pain, to hear it's okay right here, how you are. If you just need to sit and breathe, it's great. It's perfect. You're doing it. Good job. Like, how many people that are sitting in a treatment center or in a office somewhere hasn't heard that ever, and like, what a gift. That's recovery for me, is like, come as you are, just show up. Like, it's just a perfect union. Well, I was going to ask you a little bit about your additional work that you do outside of the treatment center. I know that you're on, Insight Timer, I think I saw several sites, and you've written a book. So you went from yoga as a thing that's going to be a support to your sobriety to I'm going to teach some classes with a friend to I'm going to be in treatment centers. And now it's like, I'm pretty sure anywhere that you can find these practices, you can find Brian Hyman. So was that just like a gradual grow, and knowing what I know about many of us who are in recovery and who have histories and, substance use disorder, that it's like, I want it all and I want it right now, moderation, I don't even know her. So how has that been? And at any point, has it been too much? Has it been like, oh, I've taken on so much that I've lost some of the joy in the practice? And I might be asking that as a person who has done that before.
No, I've been really lucky. It has been very gradual. It's been a nice slow flow.
Oh.
It's
See what you did there.
I had Vinyasa flow, for those who are in the know. Vinyasa flow. It's been a nice gradual unfoldment. I love that word that's been coming up the last couple of years in my recovery. Unfoldment. So I had ideas when I got sober. I had an idea to write a book. I had ideas that I wrote out a plan actually a couple of years into my sobriety of what I wanted to do with yoga and creating courses and writing articles. All that stuff was on there,
Mm-hmm.
even writing a book. But time takes time.
Mm-hmm.
That's a saying I heard a few years back. So it just takes what it takes. And I was in no rush. And I've been sober long enough now to realize whenever something's supposed to happen, it will.
Mm-hmm.
And if I try to rush it, that's not going to go well for me or anyone around me. So just to kind of take the ride, stay present.
Yeah.
And so everything just started to unfold. And it's neat because a friend of mine pointed out to me last week, he said, a lot of this stuff, we talked about some of the stuff that we're talking about, creating courses or writing the book. He said, you were a good listener. And we talked about that because a lot of this stuff came to me as intuitive thoughts, things I listened to in meditation, things I listened to when someone else would say something, someone I trusted, a mentor, a sponsor, a therapist, even a friend. So the book that I wrote that just came out a couple weeks ago, I had a student in one of my audio courses who happened to say, this would make a great book. You should turn this into a book. And something about the way he said we have an interactive course classroom, and he wrote that in there in the comments section. And it really struck me. It made sense. Sure. So this book came to be because someone happened to say this should be a book. I was able to listen to that. So it wasn't really my idea. Even creating the class at the church wasn't my idea. It just felt like the next right thing.
Yeah.
And I've been able to grab onto each one of those little things that felt like, do this, now do this, now go over here, do this, now call this person, now email this person.
Yeah.
And in regard to flow, if anyone, a lot of people ask me, how do you find your purpose? Or how do you do all this stuff? Or how did you get the job here? Or how did you write the book? The next right thing.
Yeah.
Just continue to do the next right thing. And each thing will unfold into the next. And the way that I can tell things are moving in the right direction is it's effortless.
Mm.
There's ease to it. There's a flow to it. I used to do work before I got sober, and I felt like I was banging my head against a brick wall, trying to get the next job or trying to get the next person to return my call or my email or trying to be seen or trying to be heard. And it was torture. It was horrible. I couldn't make a dent in this industry. I couldn't make any money. I couldn't get it. It was just, and then I started teaching yoga, and it's like every door flies wide open. And I wasn't the best yoga teacher. I still am not the best. That's not what it's about. My heart is open. My spirit is there. And so I think that's what is allowing these doors to open is I'm just willing to say yes. Write a book? Okay. Create a course? Sure. Even the courses. So I have some courses on Insight Timer. They had reached out to me and asked me if I wanted to contribute some guided meditations at some point. It took me a while. I said, okay, I'll think about it. I didn't know what an app was at the time. They had an app. And then I finally figured out, oh, this thing's kind of big. All right, sure. So I put some meditations on the app, and then they created a section for courses. So I put my first course. I'll add this. I had some options or ideas to create a course, and the first thing I thought of was just what I think of just being a person in recovery, was gratitude. So my first course is called Cultivating a Heart of Gratitude, just because that's what all this comes back down to, or comes to for me. None of this. I'm so thankful. So many of us, we're just so grateful to be here, just to be alive, to be sober, to have conversations like this, to just try to help other people. Just gratitude.
So beautiful. It sounds like also a lot of, and I'm kind of waffling between the two words of trust and faith, of, I don't know whether you would say of yourself or of that feeling of what does feel like the next right thing. Because I know in active addiction and often in early recovery, I can speak for myself. My brain felt very hijacked, so like the thing that felt like the right thing to do, the thing that felt like the easy thing to do was the thing that was going to kill me, actively was headed in that direction. And so it took a long time for me to feel like I could trust any ideas that came from me. So how did that flow for you? How did that shift? Because I would imagine maybe it was immediate for you, but I know for a lot of us, it takes a little bit of time before that feels easy and even safe to take those steps forward.
Yeah, I had a lot of that stinking thinking as well,
Stinking
where I
thinking,
couldn't
man.
even I couldn't even trust my own mind
Yeah.
or my thoughts, and it did take a while. There was some faith that something else was guiding me.
Mhm.
Call it whatever you want: higher power, God, universe, spirit, source, soul. We all have different words for it's Buddha nature. It's Jesus, whatever it might
Yeah.
be. Christ consciousness. I didn't feel like I was a lucky one, or that I was the only one either. I started to see other people in recovery seem to be living a life where, the saying goes, beyond our wildest dreams. Like, how is he doing that? How is she doing that? And then you'd ask them, and they'd say, well, I just trust my higher power. I just pray and meditate, or I just do the next right thing, or first things first, or one day at a time. You start hearing all these slogans and ideas and
Mhm.
mantras, and it's what they are. They're mantras. They're really, a mantra is something that protects the mind and the heart. I didn't know that. And when you hear these little sort of bumper sticker slogans in recovery, like one day at a time, that's a really good mantra.
Yeah.
Because that works. One breath at a time, one pose at a time, one project at a time. Writing a book is one page at a time, one chapter at a time. Really works well. Even trying to log on today was just, okay,
One click at a time, one cookie
one
at a
click at a time.
time. Yeah.
Trying to clear one page at a
Yeah.
time, one history at a time, one cookie at a time. We try to get the cookies off, one cookie at a
Oh,
time.
those darn cookies. Yeah. We got there though.
Um,
Yeah.
Yeah, I think somewhere in there between trust and faith, trusting that I wasn't going to be abandoned
Mhm.
or forgotten about or left behind, trusting that I was worthy.
Mhm.
And again, I'm not unique or special. All of us are worthy of redemption, of recovery, of transformation, of healing, and just trusting that I'm not left out of that equation.
Yeah.
That recovery is available to anybody, and so just trusting that I have my hand in that pot as well. I want to change my life, and then whatever's going to help me will show up to help me, and it's it's neat because we get into the idea of faith, and it can be faith in oneself, faith in one's own discipline, one's own practices, one's own pull yourself up by your bootstraps, like get to the meeting, go to work, do the next thing, take care of your kids, like pay your bills, like have faith that you can do what you need to do, and you will.
Yeah.
Because a lot of us are pretty familiar in active addiction with the self-defeating behaviors and the stinking thoughts where we don't think we're good enough and it's not going to happen for us. And we're watching the parade go by and everyone else is getting this and everyone else gets to do that. And that was my old way of thinking,
Mhm.
especially when I was younger. I would see other writers publish books and become authors. And, years and years ago, it was kind of like, oh, how come not me? Why not me? Look at them. They're getting all the attention. And, the funny thing is now, all these years later, I have this book out and I'm not in the same place mentally. And it's such a blessing because a lot of the attachment is gone. A lot of
Mhm.
the ego is gone. A lot of the pride, not really looking for the cash and the prizes anymore, or the shiny things, or what's more important to me is like we've been talking about, carry a message, just try
Yeah.
to help some other people. I like just having a quiet mind. I
Yeah.
like being of service. I like to try to see where I can be useful. That gives my life purpose and meaning.
That's so, and I think, like you're talking about with the watching the parade go by of people that it's like, man, must be nice, for folks that have these things that I just don't think I could ever have. It's amazing how that changes when that great group of people that you just think have the things that you could never have, suddenly you just talk to them. Suddenly, like, that's the power of community, right? Getting to step with that parade and ask someone, how did you get this, and to start sharing stories and to see the individual people in the crowd of everyone who just seems to have it figured out, and you realize, oh, we're all just doing the best we can, and so many people have actually gone through the things I have, and if they got to this point that they have even a little bit of quiet in the mind, maybe I can too. And it sounds like everything that you're doing is not only sharing just that story and that message, but also building community, like giving people opportunities to do it together. Does that feel accurate?
That's what I I did set out to do that. I didn't know how it would manifest or unfold, but getting the group together at that church, for example,
Mhm.
that's what we were trying to do, was co-create this community, all inclusive. And it wasn't just for alcoholics. It wasn't just for 12-step groups. It was anyone in recovery or anyone who identifies with needing to recover from anything. So people would show up sometimes who were going through a divorce. Some people showed up who had depression,
Mm-hmm.
and it would be very sweet. Sometimes people would say, "Is the teacher here?" And I would say, "I'm teaching tonight," and they would pull me aside and say, "I'm not really an addict or alcoholic. Is it okay if I come? I just want to be." And I just was. I was just. I'm lonely. I just wanted to be with other people, or something like that. Or I just went through a divorce. My mother just passed away, and I'm not really sure what to do today because all I can do is cry at home. And I said, "Well, welcome." And it's just neat because community is huge. So yeah, I guess I was starting to do that with that group. And again, that wasn't my idea. I had a friend who was already doing that, and I asked him. It was funny. I said, "How did you come up with this idea?" He goes, "I stole it from someone else." So um, he got the idea to create a community class at a local studio from someone else.
Yeah.
And then I did the same thing. And then I've handed the idea to other people. I've seen other people do it over the years, like to start their own groups. I had a friend who was coming to the yoga group we were doing every week, and she was a dancer. So she started her own recovery dance group. So she had dancers coming once a week to a recovery themed dance group. And
So fun.
that was so cool to see. It's like, oh, recovery goes with everything. It's not like you have to, you can do recovery and creativity. We had an artist group once. We did. I did that with some people in recovery. We did a creativity group. It was a bunch of us, writers, musicians, actor. We had a dancer. It's neat because the community aspect of it. I think those of us who come up through the 12 steps, fellowship is a big part of, huge part of finding out what you need to find out from the people. Without others, how are you going to, you need to ask questions, you need to hear answers. There have to be other people there. And then we get into things like Buddhism. The Sangha is one of the three jewels. One of them is the community. You'll find that in yoga. I think, there's a lot of different terms for it, but kula, the yoga community, is you create like a shala. You create a little area for your yogis to get together and feel safe and explore and talk about the scriptures and make it relatable in modern day times. And we share solutions. We talk about recipes, food, dieting, nutrition, health. We talk about, who else are you going to talk about if you're going to go through a divorce? You're going to talk to a stranger or someone you have a health issue. Find someone you know. It's really neat to have community, especially in recovery. I think everything I've figured out that I think I've figured out, it's because someone else paved the path before me. And I'm not being falsely humble. I'm no creator or originator here. I don't think any of us are. We get to borrow.
Yeah.
And like I talked about with yoga, we get to make things our own. We take other people's ideas, something we hear in a meeting, something we read in a book, and we integrate it into our own recovery, our own life, and it comes out and manifests in a whole different way. And I think it's beautiful. We get to make this patchwork quilt out of our lives in recovery, and there's just no limit to how creative we can be and how successful we can be, and everything just starts to come together.
Oh, I love that visual, having that patchwork quilt of your life. That is, that's beautiful. And, I was just thinking that's the history of the Phoenix is similar. We've got, over 300,000 people who are part of this organization, and we're, all across the country and even worldwide now. We have, an app, like, we're going to blink our eyes and have 1 million people in there. And it's just wild because, it started with people just working out together and being like, oh, this is great. This is working. This must be the key. So let's do more of this. And in the beginning, a lot of it, community was always a big part of it, but fitness also played an enormous role of moving your body is just so powerful and, such a great complement to recovery. And then as time went on, it was like, okay, yeah, fitness is great for a lot of folks, but it's the community, it's the togetherness, it's the connection. It's like that opposite of isolation. And that's when it started to change into more than fitness, and, yoga and meditation came into it, but also poetry. And now we have music, and there's just anything that will bring people together. Like, that's the key. Like, that's the thing that changes everything when suddenly you're not alone. And that's going to look different, I think, for for so many people, it's okay if it doesn't. It's okay if it doesn't look like yoga for you, dear listener. I think, if you're sitting here not ever wanting to do yoga, first of all, I encourage you to maybe try, but also if it's not, do something else that brings you to be with people, because it's okay for that to be different, and it's okay for there to be seasons of it. And, I think that just everything that you said resonates so deeply. And yeah, we certainly didn't invent that. That's been just forever. Humans have needed each other. And yeah, really grateful for the work that you're doing and that you're sharing. And I feel quite certain that folks are going to want to learn more and read your book and meditate with you on Insight Timer. And so if you don't mind sharing some of the places people can find you, I would love to hear those things.
Sure, thank you. My website is brianhymanyoga.com, and on my site you have access to pretty much everything else I've been doing. I try to keep it pretty updated. I have 10 audio courses now on Insight Timer. It's a free app, and you can also access their content online on their website. And my book just came out. It's called Recovery with Yoga: Supportive Practices for Transcending Addiction. It's with Shambhala Publications, and then Penguin Random House is distributing it. So wherever books are sold. Yeah, so that's the latest as the book is out. And I've been doing more of these podcasts recently since the book came out. So I have, I think, 12, 13, 14 different podcast interviews I've done recently. So, and yeah, there's a lot of stuff out there. So this day and age, if you need something, you Google it, you put it into your search engine, and yeah, so I have a lot of stuff out there, recordings and articles and things like that. So
cool. Give your name a Google and they'll find you. And we'll put all those links in the show notes here. And also, I'm just thinking how funny that back before recovery, before teaching, you wanted this notoriety, wanted to be seen, wanted all those things. And then now at this point in your life where that is like so far from the priority, it's like, well, here are all the places that you can find me and be seen. It's just amazing how things happen when you're not pushing, when you're not, when the intention is different, when the intention is service. It is just such a wildly different world. So life is cool like that.
Yeah, it's neat. I did an event last week. It was an in-person event at a bookstore in LA, and I used to live out in LA, and that's where I did a lot of my drinking near the end. That's actually where I finally got sober, and I haven't been back there in a long time. I've been out of that area for about 11 years, and so to be back in that neighborhood, just a few blocks from where I was drinking, the apartment that I had there, and there was some nostalgia, and there was also just this bittersweet moment where it was, yeah, I'm blocks away from the place where I used to drink every night, and I was literally just killing myself. And now I'm the featured author in this store with a book about recovery, and I'm talking with a good friend of mine, and we're doing the talk together, and there's some people there, and I just thought, what a blessing. Yeah, so your story is not over yet for anyone listening. If anyone is still on the fence about recovery or early recovery, or even you have some time and you think, you're not where you want to be, hang in there. The story's not over yet. I'm living proof. It just gets better and better. It looks different. It definitely looks different than where we thought it could have been or what it was supposed to be. But yeah, where I am today, I'm so glad everything ended up this way as opposed to the way that I wanted it to end up, because this way is so much easier, so much nicer, calmer, busy, lots of stuff going on, but it's stuff that I enjoy. I love having talks with other people who are working on themselves and trying to find ways to heal and ways to help others. And yeah, so hang in there. Anyone who's in that place where you need to hang in there, just do it. Hang in there.
Yeah. 100%. I agree. Yeah. And just, like you said, just keep doing that next right thing, taking that next deep breath. Sometimes that is the best you can do in a moment, just to take that breath. And got lots of community available on the Phoenix app. Definitely please seek out Brian. Thank you again for being here, Brian. It was such a treat to be able to talk to you. And despite all technology throwing barriers in our path, we still were able to make it happen. So appreciate the tenacity and the patience. And I can't wait to see what's next for you. And congratulations on the book. What an accomplishment to write a book and have it published. I'm just wowed and appreciate you so much.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, my pleasure. Well, thank you for everyone who is listening. And to Bryce, our missing host, we do miss you and hope we made you proud today. And we will see you next time.
So now you're excited. Bryce, Liz, how do I get involved with the Phoenix? Well, my friend, it is super simple. We actually have an app. Head over to the Google Play Store or the Apple App Store, or look in the show notes of this podcast, wherever you're listening to or watching this podcast, and go download the Phoenix app.
The Phoenix app makes it so easy to find classes that are near you or to access our virtual class schedule where you can hop on from the comfort of your home. You can also join our groups and have a conversation with someone from the Phoenix community from anywhere in the world. Please make sure that you join the podcast group where you can connect with Bryce and I and other listeners. Everything that you need is in the show notes. You can also head to our website at www.thephoenix.org. And maybe while you're there, you click the volunteer tab and get even more involved.